Let's follow what happens to air inside the respiratory system. The main entrance to the respiratory system is the nose. The nose prepares the air we breathe for the lungs. It moistens the air and makes it warmer. Inside the nose, there are tiny hair-like things called cilia and a thick layer of mucus that together help clean the air we breathe. The cilia sweep particles of dirt and dust the mucus is trapped toward the back of the throat, where we swallow them along with saliva. After air has been warmed, moistened, and cleaned in the nose, it passes into the pharynx, a chamber behind the nose and mouth. The pharynx leads into two tubes. One, the esophagus, takes food to the stomach. The other, the trachea, carries air to the lungs. If food went down the trachea and got stuck, it would cut off our air supply and choke us. But the entrance to the trachea is guarded by a flap of tissue called the epiglottis. When we swallow food, the epiglottis closes like a trapdoor and prevents food from going down the trachea. As air is drawn into the trachea, it passes through the larynx. The larynx is often called the voice box. It contains the vocal cords, two folds of tissue. When we exhale air, these folds of tissue vibrate and make the sounds that form our voice. Below the larynx, the trachea divides into two separate tubes. These are called bronchi, and they lead to the lungs. Inside the lungs, the two bronchi divide, forming branches that divide over and over again into smaller and smaller tubes. The smallest of these tubes, called bronchioles, are very thin, only about the thickness of a hair. At the end of the bronchioles, there are clusters of tiny air sacs called alveoli. There are hundreds of millions of alveoli in each lung. Looking like grapes on a stalk, the alveoli are the last stage of the journey of air in the respiratory system. But the oxygen in this air still has further to go before it reaches the cells where it is needed for energy. Surrounding each of the alveoli are tiny blood vessels called capillaries. Here we see a cutaway view of a single alveolus and a capillary. The alveolus walls are so thin that oxygen can cross through the walls and into the capillary. There it joins with red blood cells. In fact, the oxygen gives these cells their red color. The capillaries surrounding the alveoli are part of a system that, along with the respiratory system, provides the body with the oxygen it needs. This system is called the circulatory system. The circulatory system carries oxygen-rich blood from the lungs to the heart, which then pumps the blood to muscle cells, brain cells, and all the other kinds of cells that make up the human body. Oxygen enters these cells, which use it when burning food. In the burning process, carbon dioxide waste is produced. It leaves the cells and enters the blood. The carbon dioxide travels through the circulatory system back to the heart, which then pumps it to the lungs. From capillaries in the lungs, carbon dioxide leaves the blood and passes through the alveoli walls. When we exhale or breathe out, the carbon dioxide follows in reverse the path that oxygen took earlier through the respiratory system. It goes through the bronchioles and bronchi, up the trachea, and finally out through the nose and mouth.